Hi everyone, welcome to another brand new episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. We have an exciting guest with us today, Jenna. Hi Jenna, how are you doing? Pleasure, Jenna, to host you in the podcast. I mean, I know you were really busy. It took us like months to get a open slot in our calendar finally, but we are glad we could find that, Jenna. And thank you for taking your time out to talk to us today. Definitely. Absolutely. Quick introduction. I don't think Jenna needs an introduction. She is the popular credit union exec across California, and everyone knows her. I mean, everyone I talk to in California, and I ask about Jenna, and everyone almost knows about Jenna. I look in introduction who she is still. She's CEO of Pacific Service Credit Union, based in California. She's got an incredible story. The stories that I love covering is teller to CEO. She started as a teller with a credit union when she was 18, went back to school for her bachelor's, 20s, grad school, MBA in her 30s, and finally transitioned and grew up the ladder to become a CEO. So, firstly, Jenna, let me tell you that we are extremely proud of this journey of yours, and I want personally this to reach out to as many people, my entire audience, as a motivation for people to know that it's never late. You can go to school at any point in time, and you can gradually become a CEO from being a teller. Right? So that's a fantastic story for sharing with us. So I'll start with a quick question, and I mean I know all CEOs are crazy. I talk to CEOs every day. Everyone is crazy. You guys don't have time, but still you have 24 hours. You have to manage your family, your work. So what keeps you going?
See my love for people because as you said earlier, I mean, it's not an easy job. And so there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot happening in the world, in the macroeconomic environment, the microeconomic environment, in our state, in our credit union. And so what really keeps me going and keep me motivated is the people. So our employees come to work every day with goals and ambitions. And then we have members whom we love to serve. And so I love hearing stories. I just came from our assistant managers meeting for the last couple of hours and spending time hearing about the great things that they're doing in their branches and in their communities, and also hearing about their individual development journeys as managers. And that just really filled my heart. So I would say it's got to be.
Got it. Understand. So that actually keeps you going, right? Let's talk about your journey a bit, Jenna. I mean, what has been your journey so far?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. When I was in high school, I thought for sure I was going to be in the field of psychology of some sort. And I guess you could argue that I am in the field of psychology in some ways, right? Study of people in my role, but banking wasn't my path. I got a job in high school. I happened to be a bank teller, and that paid the bills. So it helped me pay the bills. And
Gotcha.
after I graduated high school, I moved to Arizona to be closer to my family. And the first bank to call me was a credit union. And so at 18 years old, I started working for my first credit union as a teller.
Yep.
And then fast forward 10 years, I did really well at that organization. It was a smaller credit union at the time, maybe 150, 200 million in assets. And I did really well. And they recognized that in me. My boss saw something in me early, something I surely didn't see in myself. He kept pushing me to do things and take new roles along the way. And despite being terrified with every next opportunity I was granted, I said yes and did it anyway. And so that got me up to the assistant vice president role before I left Arizona and moved back to California. So my journey was, I would say, very non-traditional in that way, in that it wasn't my goal ultimately to work in credit unions my whole life and to become a CEO. I don't think that that actually entered my realm of possibility until maybe, the last 10 or 15 years of my career. I think you mentioned earlier that I got my bachelor's degree late, so
Yeah.
I was a branch manager at that credit union in Arizona. I realized that having a bachelor's degree would provide a lot of value for my
Yes.
future, and so
Yes.
I went to school.
Hmm.
in person. Online school
Yeah.
was becoming a thing, but I went to night school in person after managing the branch and finished that in 3 years. And then I also went to Western CUNA Management School. So for credit union people out there, that's also a credit union. It's like college, like it is a college program that I went through during the same time, by the way. So I was a branch manager and I went to college and I went through Western CUNA Management School all in the same period. And so that was an intense amount of learning, but it certainly helped me. It actually helped me get into California because the people that I met through that credit union college introduced me to a credit union and a career here in California. From Southern California, I moved to Northern California. I was looking for an opportunity. Southern California, I love you, but it was not my jam. LA County was not the place for Jenna. And so I realized I needed something that was a little less hip because I don't think I fit in so well. And so I moved up here to the Bay Area. The first credit union to offer me a job up here was Pacific Service Credit Union. And part of that journey that I'd love to share is that I applied for the Assistant Vice President of Operations role. At that time, it included branches, it included debit cards, ACH, and payments. And I did not have the payments side of the house. I had no experience there. But the credit union took a chance on me, which is what I think is a really positive thing about credit unions. If they see that potential in you, they know you'll learn it. And so I did. I learned it. And I was promoted to COO within about 18 months. And so I think part of that journey was just blind luck, right? The person who hired me moved to the East Coast and a position opened. And I became the COO. And then 15 years in that role and the CEO position opened up. I would say this credit union prepared me well for that. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but they encouraged me to go to school to get my master's degree, to get more breadth of experience, learn more about the financial aspects. So I did that. So while I was COO, I went back and got my MBA. And then honestly, the credit union was looking to fill and develop an internal successor, which I think is also very common in the industry. And they continued to offer me training and development programs. And so while I was extremely apprehensive, I didn't necessarily want to be the CEO. I actually said those words to the CEO at the time. I don't want this job. You will, Jenna, you will want this job when the time comes. And so keep doing what you're doing. And so I did. I went to every course that the credit union was willing to send me to and continued my development in anticipation of the position opening up in 2019.
That's in a way fantastic, right? I mean, that's where credit union takes bets, right? I mean, hiring you as a assistant vice president of operations, promoting you to a COO, then I mean, I haven't heard any organization per se or any ecosystem that is so invested in its employees as well as members. This is one of the very rare reasons because of which I left everything and came to the ecosystem 3 years back. And just to be honest, I love every single day. And, you know, it emanates from the way how you speak about credit unions. Absolutely right. Uh, Now, obviously, Jenna, this has been a very long journey. 15 years in a role, then moving to another credit union as a CEO, right? The other credit union prepared you to move to make your next move, right? So along the way, you had a lot of journey. You got a lot of learnings, right? Learnings across the way. And I'm sure 30 years back, there were not a lot of women exec leaders, right? Now it's becoming more common, but still today, talking about CEOs, I know a few, but not a lot. So, what are your learnings, right? You want to share a few learnings that you have or had for aspiring women leaders because a lot of people look at someone like you who has used a CEO of a credit union, who might be a teller right now, or who might be, you know, an AVP, wants to walk that same path, but they don't know uh, where to go next. If you can share some learnings, that will be a, I would say, golden pieces of nuggets for the audience.
Yeah, so the first one I would say is that a lot of, people look for mentors. They look for people to look up to. They look for people to help nurture them through this process. And I would say that not everybody gets that opportunity. And I was very lucky in some regards where I had leaders who saw potential in me. They weren't formal mentors to me at the time. I didn't know at the time they were mentors. They just pushed me pushed me to do more because they knew I was capable, and even though I didn't. Um, the um, the second thing would be back to the mentor. Um, you don't have to have a formal mentor to succeed. And so one of the things, when I moved to Southern California and I worked in LA, I worked for an organization, and um, I'll be honest, it was an organization in chaos at the time, and I learned probably more in that 1 year in this organization that was in a lot of transition than I probably learned in that 10-year period at that first credit union, because I learned how to deal with conflict. I learned how to deal with challenges, and the skills that you learn in that, even though it might be a really challenging environment, is invaluable. And had I jumped ship because, I wasn't happy or because it was a challenging environment, I would never have gotten the advancement and the maturity in dealing with people and overcoming challenges that I had in an environment previously that was, I would say, sort of easy for me.
Yeah.
So you can learn just as much from really challenging bosses and environments as you can from an organization and a boss that's really supportive and runs smoothly.
Mhm.
And the other is really just take every opportunity to learn. So, even if it's not something you're interested in or not, I didn't, like, as I say, I was not, being a CEO was not something that I aspired to be. Um, and I was offered training and development opportunities. I could have just as easily said, no, I'm really comfortable where I'm at. I'm not gonna do that, spend the money on somebody else. And instead I said, you know what if they're right? What if I am going to want this? And so I said yes. I was in a very positive space in my life that I was able to do those things. Right, my obligations at home
Yeah.
were not as challenging, so I was able to take advantage. It was a lot of travel. It was a lot of work. I said yes anyway. And I think had I not taken those opportunities, I certainly would not have been as prepared as I was to be in this seat today.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Now, you know, talked about your learnings, right? Again, I think I already told you before we started the podcast, Jenna, is that this podcast is also sharing success and failures and learnings. It's a 360 view, right, of a leader that you want to bring across and inspire people. You want to share some very candid challenges that you faced throughout your career. You want to share some challenges and let's talk about them. Let's peel the onion.
Sure. So I've been at this organization actually for 20 years. And so I was promoted from within this organization from AVP all the way up to CEO. And I thought, having been here as long as I had been, that perhaps it would be easier, right? I know all the people. I know everything. I know where all the skeletons are in the closet. And in the role of CEO, I would be able to just go in and make some tweaks, and it would be a piece of cake, right? I knew it was going to be a hard job, but I didn't know it was going to be as hard as it is, or it was. Turn the lights back on. So I think one of the challenges was preparing the organization for change. So even though I was a known entity, even though I knew the organization and the people very well, even the small tweaks could be perceived and are felt as big changes. And
Yeah.
we know how people react to change, right? It's unsettling, it's uncertain, sometimes it's uncomfortable, sometimes people just don't like it.
Yeah.
And and the challenges that I had really were preparing people for the pace of change, and the fact that it's not going to stop. It's not
Yeah.
that it's going to get easier next year or when things settle down. We used to speak that way, and we don't say that anymore because things will not settle down. This is the pace of change in our industry, and we've got to be able to be, as you say, what keeps you going. You've got to be invested in it because it's not going to get easy. It's just going to get harder. And so those are some of the big challenges. Is I don't think I prepared my team as well as I could have for the pace and amount of change that was going to happen. And then on a personal perspective, and I think this was because I came into this role not necessarily like this is what I want to be, and I was confident. I didn't come into this role confident that this is what I wanted to do or that I would enjoy doing it. And so I really wore the title like a burden in some ways. Instead of an opportunity, instead of a gift, I wore it like a burden. Like, I am the CEO. I need to figure out how to do everything right. I need to do it well the first time. And I think putting that kind of pressure on me made the first several years maybe not as enjoyable as they could have been, because I
Yeah,
felt so responsible. And I have this whole wonderful team of people here to support me, who want to go on this journey with me. And I sort of bore that burden on my own.
yeah,
And I need to do that. So I think if I was talking to other people that were, taking on this role, some are excited and ready to go, and they've got all the confidence in the world. More power to you.
yeah.
But most of us come into these roles a little insecure and unsure about, whether or not we're going to be good at it. You don't know till you're in the seat. And I think how you view the role, how you view that responsibility, makes a big difference. And I'm not sure I did it right.
I mean, I think I'm sure you did it right, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have been the CEO. Come on, you have
Well,
been too
I'm still
humble
here
at times.
years later, so I'm still here. So I did something right, but I think I emotionally a challenging period the first, and never mind the pandemic happened in the middle of that too. But that's a story for another day.
That's a story for a different day. It might be another separate podcast talking
Yeah,
about how to cope up to challenges, right? Because
yeah.
you had a bunch of challenges across, right? Uh, Now, obviously, everyone wants to become a CEO. Let's put it this way, right? But what do you do? Everyone knows. You run the credit union, right? But Jenna, let me ask you a question differently, right? Why? Why this role? I mean, why do you want to do this?
I think it goes full circle back to your original question about what keeps me going, and that is the people. You see, in this role, you are in a very unique and powerful position to influence the lives of others, and not just our members. Clearly, that's our first goal, right? Is to strengthen the financial future of our members, to put out products and services that enrich them and strengthen them financially, but seeing the difference we can make for the people who were, just as you said earlier, tellers like me, to be able to tell my story and to have people be able to see that. I got a text from a friend the other day who has a young daughter. She's 15. And he just out of the blue said, "Thank you for being a role model. Thank you for showing my young daughter that a woman can lead a company, that you can do this too." And, it's certainly not something I set out to do when I decided to take this role. But as I've spent some time in this role, and I've had the opportunities like this to speak to others around about my journey, it's very moving to me to hear from others that are inspired by my story,
Yeah.
because my story is just my life journey. It wasn't anything, that I did special. It happened, and I made decisions along the way to help me get here. They were good decisions, clearly. But the why is, I love being in a position to influence others in a very, very positive way.
That was actually a very motivating answer because it's not transactional, but you are doing it because you want to influence lives. You want to, I mean, put it this way, you're living the mission and vision of a credit union. People helping people. You're trying to influence people's lives for better, helping them. Maybe someone like me who's an immigrant in the country, helping someone like me with my first auto loan, right, or helping me with my first mortgage. So I think that keeps you going. To summarize, is every single day you're doing good, right? It's just not
Yes.
transaction. So that's fantastic. I mean, I want to be respectful of your time, Jenna. So I've just a couple of last two overarching questions. One is, uh, obviously, this year, I mean, as I keep on talking to CEOs of credit unions every day, I understand that this year optimism is a bit more. We are a bit more optimistic than last year because obviously rates are a bit lesser, but obviously not the ones that we expect as of yet. So, what are the priorities at Pacific Service right now? If I were to ask you the top three priorities you have right now, what are the priorities?
Yeah, I mean, first one is product development. So we, as an organization, have spent a lot of time. We're very fortunate. We're very financially sound. We have a lot of capital. Our board has allowed us to continue to invest in relevancy and technology and infrastructure and people. And so we continue to do that. So we want to make sure next that we have the right products and services for our members. We've added products and services over the years. but it's been probably a decade since we've stepped back and looked at all of our products, right? We've got life journeys of our members from babies to retirement and beyond. And do we have the suite of products and services that appeal to our members? So we're taking a step back. We built a team around it. We're bringing consultants in as well to help us brainstorm and find out, are there gaps in the products and services that we offer that we need to fill? So that's a big priority for this year. On top of that, in addition to that, we're also looking at our processes. And so over the years, we've done a lot with infrastructure, moving our infrastructure to cloud-based, trying to make sure that we are very flexible, agile, able to respond to changes in technology. We're closer today than we've ever been, but there's still work to do. I don't think you ever get there with the pace of changes we spoke about earlier. And so it's about process optimization, how we looked inside to determine, all the different vendors and softwares and things that we've kind of bolted on to the company over the years to solve problems. Do we still need them? Can we consolidate? Are there things we can do faster and better so that we can better use our human resources? And the third is really taking care of our people, right? Attracting and retaining talent. It's very, very challenging today and always, I suppose, but it seems really challenging to attract talent that number one is going to stay, right? So I think we have to our mindset in some way, because some people come for 2 years and they go, but I can get around that, but give me the best 2 years you could ever give me, right? Before you move on. And so really it's how do we look for the next generation of emerging leaders, and how do we prepare them and keep them when you've got a CEO who probably has a 10 to 15-year retirement horizon? How do we get people ready for the next step and have the organization be well prepared for turnover in staff, things like that?
That's a very to the point answer, right? On the priorities, makes sense. One parting question, Jenna, is on your 2 cents on the current ecosystem and the current movement. I mean, there'll be thousand naysayers, but there are people like us who wake up in the morning with a belief that we will make this movement happen. We will work together to make this movement go forward, right? I mean, we are in our 30s. I know at least another 10 people in our 30s or late 20s who are really positive about credit unions. And we
Yeah,
want credit union to be my PFI. I know PFI is a myth, but still, I want
yeah,
eventually a credit union to be a PFI of my family, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, looking at this journey, I know there are a lot of things that are moving, but still, what are your 2 cents on the current ecosystem, and what do you think 2025 will span like?
Yeah, honestly, it's a scary time. It's a scary time.
Yes.
And looking at credit unions, right? Our tax status is back on the table, so to speak. It's always been, I suppose, but it seems like a more imminent threat than ever. And we have to compete, and it's been a lifelong issue for credit unions. We're better at it today than we've ever been, as far as offering relevant products and services, offering the technology that people need. And yet we're still the best kept secret in the nation, and nobody understands why, right? Those of us who live and breathe credit unions,
Yep.
it's a no-brainer. The people are amazing, our products are amazing, our services are amazing, our prices are exceptional, and yet we've only got 10% of the market share of banking, right? So my 2 cents is we need people to continue to be passionate about the movement. Don't leave it to others. I look up to the CEOs that have come before me and spend time in the industry, speaking to our lawmakers, speaking to our employees to say we need all of us to be involved. Don't leave it to other people to save the industry or to help the industry grow and move forward. We all need to do our part, and if we can all be involved and work together, there's absolutely a place for credit unions, certainly in America and throughout the world. And we provide a service and products that are just that makes sense. So how we get that word out, how we help people understand the value of a credit union, is really the big problem to solve, and one we've been trying to solve for decades in the industry. So my message would be, we all need to do our part, need to be involved as a leader or someone who's passionate about the industry, to sing from the mountaintops, remind people what credit unions do and why we do it, And then I think the choice is easy for consumers, and the industry can thrive.
Yeah, this was thank you for this wonderful half an hour that you spent with us. We really appreciate, and thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.